Triple Shot Mindset.
Did you guys hear about the brush fires in Canada?
Yep.
The forest fires.
Oh, yeah. Them forest fires.
They all started at the same time. Do you see the satellite pictures?
No.
They all started at the same time. Like there's like 12 blobs of smoke that all of a sudden they all start pluming together.
Isn't that natural when the heat hits an area? Anything that's flammable is going to catch?
Heat.
Heat.
Is there no heat?
What temperature heat?
First of all,
the
it's
sun?
Canada. Second of all, even if it's 100 degrees outside, that doesn't combust things.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
That's what happens in California all the time when it's not a gender reveal rocket going off.
There's three reasons why we have forest fires. Okay, one is natural causes, the lightning. Okay, first and foremost.
We need do you think your stove without a pilot light, if you just put it in the sun, it's
dry brush? That's why low controlled fires in physical geography class, I learned this.
You're wrong.
We're meteorologists. Okay, we supersede your physical geography.
Identify yourself.
Okay.
Identify yourself.
Amanda M. Dollinger,
Yes.
USC 2021. Fight on.
Psychology.
Minor in occupational science.
Enough said. Call Fred. So to my brother's point,
There's three
we
reasons.
need a high ignition point. One is a lightning strike. The heat in that is like 10,000 degrees.
Of course.
Number two is people throwing shit out the window like
Yes.
cigarettes.
Yes.
Cigarettes, or their car
Cigarettes.
is hot enough that like it catches things on fire.
But can't like natural matter, rocks and brush?
No. If
Not
there's
at all.
glass, broken glass, yes.
It will, because it will
It
magnify.
could do the magnification thing, but that's very rare.
But the parabolic shape has to be just right to
Yes.
get
So
everything.
what causes the forest fires in California when 4 or 5 burn at a single time like they did
Most
2
of
years
it,
ago?
arson, people, campfires that have not been put out,
And,
ambers that are flying around.
and dried lightning. It never happens because otherwise
But they happen routinely here, and they are horrible because we don't have
we got
low-controlled
13,
burns.
14 million people in Southern California. And of them, if even 1% of them are dumb and stupid and aggressive and want to inflict pain on other people and property, they'll do it.
But the only one that I remember being traced was the gender reveal misfired rocket.
No, every one of them is by human beings.
Do you
or
remember
thunder.
the
but
guy?
by who? Like, where's the list? Who's responsible for tracing? Like, how do we know?
If we go online,
Steve, can you get that for us?
Steve, get that. Yeah. If you go online and you say the causes of forest fire in California in the past 10 years,
Or like the Paradise Fire.
99% is people.
They may be attributed to people.
No.
Okay, so
The sun doesn't do that.
I'm not saying that the sun does it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying maybe the sun shines through a glass, or maybe someone throws down a cigarette butt or whatever. Maybe it's people.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the cause is, though, why can't that happen in Canada? And obviously, the
No, it
temperature
can
must
happen.
affect. Because
Temperature doesn't affect.
Wait a second. Listen to me before you shut it all down. If it burns so badly, there must have been dried brush. You can't burn lush green matter. So my question is, at some point, the temperature was a factor for it to burn to this degree.
If I had wheels, I'd be a bicycle, right? But I'm saying, yes, you're right. If the brush was dried because of hot weather,
Yes.
continuously, and then an outside person or force created the spark, then yes, obviously it would burn. But if you look at the satellite imagery for this particular one I'm talking about, they did a time lapse of like 2 days. Everything, there was no brush fires. All of a sudden, in the morning of a particular day, you see these 12 areas plume up at the same exact time. Like,
And you're saying there's no environmental factor that could
No.
have contributed to this.
1%.
So
even less.
So-
and then there was no thunder, there was no lightning anywhere around
so
that.
how did they start?
So they have people. It must have been 12 people, either government agencies or people that decided to go there at 4 o'clock in the morning and start brush fire.
Yeah.
For a particular reason, whichever what we don't know. But I think, from what I've heard online, if you create plumes of smoke that will carry over into the eastern United States and cloud up people's view of the heavens, there must have been something they're trying to hide. I know it sounds like a conspiracy theory.
No, it doesn't sound like one. It is one.
Is one. But if you look at I would have given it any weight if I didn't see the satellite pictures of the 12 plumes of smoke all starting at the same
You
time.
wouldn't have given it any weight? You?
None. None. But when you see 12 things happening at the same exact time,
And this video is from where?
the geosatellite thingy that
I mean, where did you find it online?
YouTube. It was about the Canadian brush fires of last week or whatever it was, and it showed that there was a official talking about, oh, we have like these forest fires going on at the same time, and it showed a satellite picture or video that in the early morning hours they all started pluming up at the same time, not one after another or like an hour later or half an hour later or 15 minutes earlier. They all happened at the same exact time.
It's not out of the realm of possibility that they were intentionally set. There was a time pre-COVID, actually it might have been during COVID, that
DC.
15 massive bee farms were burned down within the span of like 3 months, which killed millions of bees. And no one knew why. Someone just showed up and burned them all down.
In 1992, before you were born.
I was actually born in 1992.
Okay,
Wow.
well, maybe it was right before you were born because you were born in December.
Yeah.
This happened in the summer of 92
Oh, so I was in the...
in the womb. There were about 10 brush fires in Orange County, Laguna Beach, Irvine, Newport Beach. That's it. 10. People at first like, oh, another brush fire just started on the 133. Another brush fire just started, 2 miles down. But then they found that some idiot, he's demented, and the guy goes around with his car, throws out his cigarette butts everywhere just to start brush fires. So I think people do that more than you think because there's a gratification that, you know what, I can be destructive and look at me, I'm on the news, or this is what I did.
Now, how do you know they're human?
Alien, you mean? There should be alien.
We're saying, how do you know that it's a human causing these?
Does a coyote smoke?
I'm not saying it's an animal either.
Okay.
I'm just saying...
Spirit.
It cannot be caused naturally.
What if
Go ahead.
there are extraterrestrial beings who are manifested in a physical form, who spend time around the planet Earth or perhaps inside of it, who have nefarious intentions?
They could. They could.
Did you guys hear about this documentary that came out about the real Roswell of Brazil, bigger than Roswell, in a town called, it sounds like vagina.
Pussy?
It sounds like vagina. It really does sound like vagina. You gotta look it up. It's 200 kilometers, 200 kilometers south of Sao Paulo.
It's bigger than Roswell.
It's
area
bigger
size or in the
in the magnitude of the event that happened in 19
Of Brazil. You showed us the trailer for this.
I did. It was in 1998 or 96, one of those two. Virginia.
Vagina.
Okay, it's
Virginia.
Regina. Okay, it's Regina.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So farmers see this craft falling apart over the farm, but it keeps going over the mountain. Another guy driving his truck sees it. Oh my God, there's a UFO and it's leaking like something. And it goes over the hill and just takes a nosedive. What are you doing?
Sometimes those things are actually meteors because they break up as a...
No, they both describe it as like it looks like a submarine or a bus. It goes and crashes, and the three girls walking next to a cinder block wall, they see this creature completely chocolate brown / black, shiny, slimy, with red eyes looking at them. And the older one, 21-year-old, gets the telepathic message, help me, I'm in pain. These girls all start screaming and they run away.
Instead of helping, they run away.
They run away. Military shows up, they run all over the place, they find it. The guy who picks it up and puts it in a body bag because they don't know what else to do with it, he dies 4 hours later of an infection. They take this body bag to the hospital, clear out the whole unit. They take an x-ray from while the body's still in the body bag. They immediately take the x-rays and run away with it. The military does. And they say, oh, don't worry about it. It was just a crippled person giving birth.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
United States Air Force shows up that day, USAF on the wing. The people that were in the farm, they're like, what's USAF airline? We've never heard of a USAF. United States Air Force shows up, receives a body bag, and flies it back to the United States.
This sounds just like the Las Vegas alien sighting,
Yes.
except without all the body bag stuff.
But there's a beautiful documentary that's been made, and I need to watch it.
You do.
But to your point about aliens showing up here, you know what? I think it is more probable than possible.
I just Googled it, and it's totally possible for a wildfire to start from
Aliens?
drought and heat.
No, it makes it worse.
What's the
but
ignition point?
The ignition point, there has to be one.
Naturally occurring wildfires can spark during dry weather and droughts.
Spark.
Wildfires do occur naturally, either ignited by the sun's heat or a lightning strike. Ignited by the
sun's
sun's heat.
It
I
doesn't
don't know what
have
source
that.
that is.
Wildfires occur all over the world. Blah, blah, blah. All these places are particularly susceptible, especially if experiencing an extended period of drought and high temperatures. 85% of wildfires are caused by humans, but that leaves, I don't know, do math, 15% could be
lightning
natural.
strikes.
I would say lightning strike would be 99.9% of the remaining.
I'm
I've
just saying,
never heard.
if you want to make a good case for conspiracy, you just have to always be honest about other possibilities. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So you think the sun shining can burn? Like, why aren't people in?
Absolutely.
Why aren't the huts in Africa burning down like every 2 days? Like, why aren't like people driving to Vegas, like, burning up?
I have seen fires on the side of Vegas multiple times on the way to Vegas.
Because of the
Just on the
cars.
side of the road. Like, just there. I mean, I'm sure someone threw out a cigarette,
Yes.
or the heat of the asphalt can magnify. But
Look,
I'm just saying,
but the heat has to be so intense and so prolonged
correct.
that it actually has some effect. If it's just like for
Of
3 hours in the afternoon, it's not going to do it.
I'm not saying 3 hours in the afternoon. I'm just saying acknowledge the fact that in nature it could happen. If you're saying like 12 spots, because it couldn't be one guy running around doing it like you said,
Well, it
because
was
they
in
wouldn't
the-
all ignite at the exact same
But it
time.
was in the dark, because when you look at the satellite pictures, it's dark still, and then the light comes onto it like an hour later. But these things happen pre-dawn.
There's absolutely no sun.
There's no sun.
Why didn't you mention that?
Yeah, there's a little detail
That's
you
Didn't
huge.
ask.
That's,
Left out.
I mean, that could have saved all that research. Not to mention, that would mean people are there with walkie-talkies in a concerted effort to
Yes.
make it happen. Just
Yes.
like with, what are those things that always get blamed on aliens? Crop circles.
Crop circles.
What do you think of those crop circles?
I have mixed feelings about it because one time on a YouTube video, someone was like, oh yeah, me and grandpa used to make those all the time in the field just to fuck with
Yes.
people. And I was like, oh, really? And then other people are like, I've had a field and they just appear overnight and I don't know how it happens. So
Did you see the one in 2001? It appeared in England and was a message.
yes,
That was like ridiculously interesting. You cannot make that with grandpa.
some people say they've debunked it and some people have come forward and been like, I was involved in the making of that. And now I just don't know
Yeah.
because people are willing to take responsibility. Do they just want
Don't
attention?
you think by that, like if is a civilization that's years ahead of us, why would they count on like dot matrix printer kind of a
Correct.
bullshit?
Correct.
Right? That was dot matrix. Like I'm like, oh, let's just put a dot here, no dot here, and the human figure that they created is like dot dot dot. Like it's a really bad pixelation.
Yeah.
Don't you think by now they have like 4,000, 4K, whatever, versus like
It can just show us a video.
Exactly.
yeah.
They could just project it onto the sky.
Yeah. Why are they like doing it on a field, in the middle of the
Precisely.
night? But going back to your Las Vegas issue,
Yeah.
I've seen many videos that they talk about the light going over their house and kind of like falling into someone's backyard, and then people going into that backyard and seeing creatures in the
Yeah.
back of a
Just happened 2 weeks ago.
yeah.
And the people call the police. You've heard
Yep.
this. And they're like, there are 8 to 10 foot tall, maybe taller than that. I don't know, man. Figures in my backyard right now. And the dude's really calm, but you can hear like that cold panic.
Yeah.
And then they black out the footage because
Isn't that-
for
it
privacy.
is privacy.
Because
Somebody's
every other
property.
video in
Yeah.
this, like,
yeah,
get out of here.
back in 2000, actually 1995 was it?
I was alive.
Yeah, our house was flooded in Glendale, right? Because it was huge. Was it 94, 95?
I don't know. Yeah.
There was a huge
El
storm.
Nino.
and water in the LA River started coming up so high they started going into our house. So it started, water started going to our living room.
It's like eroding all the land next to it. It was
Yeah.
going to fall.
So nature was able to cause this huge influx of water.
Yeah.
Strange.
Water is different than heat.
Okay.
But anyway, so Channel 4 showed up, and the guy said, "We want to come inside your house and film." We're like, "No, we don't want you to do that." He's like, "Oh, but we can." And he took his camera and he's like stuck it between my legs as I was standing in the doorway, and he started like doing. He's like, "Come on, man, we just want to, grab some footage." We're like, "But that's our private space." And he said,
We were embarrassed because our house was a mess.
"That too."
Otherwise, they could have just come
That
in.
too.
I don't care.
But they didn't black that stuff out.
No, they didn't.
They showed our diplomas from La Cañada High School.
Nice.
That my mom
Personal documents.
had. Yeah,
Yes.
they showed that. I'm like, if
With
they,
your names on them.
Yeah,
Yes,
names on it.
absolutely.
So if they were gonna black something out, that
Yeah,
should have been it.
Not a backyard. Like, what has this guy got
That's
back there?
bullshit. That's bullshit.
That's weird. Maybe there's an imprint of something, or just, I'm sure someone intervened and was like, don't show that footage.
Yeah.
Yo.
Yeah.
And now that they're shooting down every balloon, quote unquote, because oh my God, a balloon, I need to go shoot it down. That's ridiculous.
Someone should shoot down those aircraft. Like really, like why don't they shoot back? Why can't the aliens shoot back someone who's trying to attack them?
Because aliens are not stupid and destructive
They come
to
in
the
peace.
degree that humans are.
They come in peace for the most part.
I don't think they even necessarily want to be seen. They're just like, mind your business. We're just going through this dimension real quick. Oops, we accidentally went through the 3D dimension for 5 seconds. Oops, somebody saw us. But we are obsessed with destroying things as a species, including our own bodies, health, country, environment.
Yeah.
Which is why we're starting fires in Canada.
So some lady was saying the day after the plumes of smoke start clearing up over New York, people start seeing like lights moving around, right? So Trump must have known something to start the Space Force.
Eisenhower, many years ago said, beware of the military-industrial complex. Beware of our new enemy that the future presidents will start picking that come from the skies, not from here.
Yeah.
He knew that there is something going on. He said, you know what? Warning, we're going to start picking on those guys because we're running out of people here to attack on this earth.
I always thought that Trump's development of the International Space Force, or whatever it was that he called it, landing pad for spatial ambassador commissioning, whatever, Galactic Federation of American Spacenios.
We come in peace.
I thought that was like the biggest alien disclosure ever.
Yeah.
Like, homeboy just took up the presidency. They sat him down for that, 2-week meeting, 24 hours a day, showing him all the footage. And he was like, shit, we got to start a Space Force for this. Because he was a practical dude.
But if you listen to Stephen Greer,
Yes.
Dr. Stephen Greer,
DSG.
he says this is all as a way to scare people.
What is?
Space Force.
Just like, I don't think aliens are here to mess with us.
He said none of the aliens he's come in contact with over the past 30, 40 years, because he studies them and look
Yeah,
them up.
of course.
Stephen Greer.
None of the aliens that I've come into the
He
contact
says
with
none of
have
them
been
have
nefarious.
any nefarious intent.
But I do think there are, just look at the human species and the diversity of ethics among us. Some people want to gut you. Some people want to love you. And some people somewhere in between want to do things to you. I think there are a few races of extra dimensional beings who are bound to the 3D realms and have intentions that are not great for humanity. And I think there are outliers of every alien species where there are some who have been like excluded from the bunch who have nefarious intentions. I also think that the American government is obsessed with control and wants to hide a lot of information too and intercept it before it comes to Earth. I think that's part of the reason for the Space Force. I don't know if it's all just to generate fear.
Have you heard of Gaia, the channel?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Come on.
So on Gaia,
Come on.
Come on.
I think a couple of years ago, I was watching it when I was subscribed.
They had a great deal for a few years.
Yeah,
They
they
did.
did. And then
They did.
the
I was like
price went
$4
up.
bucks a month or $5 bucks a month.
That's when I
liked
was
it.
subscribed also.
All of a sudden, $12. I mean,
Now it's like
Alona.
$18.99.
What?
Yeah. And you have
Anyway.
to pay for a whole year.
The Mayan calendar,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
They said, yes, 2012, the world was going to end. There was going to be an alien attack. This was like a legit show on Gaia.
I remember. I watched the whole thing.
And it said it was we, the good aliens, stopped the bad ones from destroying Earth. Yeah. Because that was going to happen. And they stopped it.
I think.
How do we know that? How do you know that Gaia got this right?
Because they give a platform to people who are already keyed into this stuff. A platform that YouTube doesn't provide, National Geographic doesn't really provide without putting a huge fictional spin on it.
What about NBC?
Another thing about this, I think, is that humans are mined as a resource. We're mined as a resource by our own government to a certain extent, by corporations to a certain extent. So it just stands to reason that there would be other species that also mine us as a resource for our energy and our thoughts. And people who have had interactions with certain species of aliens have felt like their life force be taken, including in abductions. And some people, there are stories of people who come back and they have like implants or they're missing something and it can't be explained. If you've ever been in a rural area, especially in the mid-country, especially in the desert, New Mexico, I recommend for this. You can feel, as sensitive empaths that you are, the presence of other beings watching you.
Yeah.
And they're not very far away. Sometimes they're right underneath.
Yeah. I was at Stephen Greer's seminar in Arizona.
What was that called? Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind?
Something like that. CE5.
What does that mean of the fifth kind?
First kind is
I see it, a dot in the sky.
Second kind, like they all have like different amounts of.
As the more contact you have with your senses, it becomes higher.
Yeah. This one is actually you telling them to come and show themselves. That would be the.
Now you have a open communication.
That would be CE5. So anyway, I went to one of his seminars with my ex-wife, and at that time we were divorced, but we decided to go as friends. And the first 2 days was just like him talking about conspiracy theories and the military machine.
Industrial complex.
Yeah. He talked about all that. He talked about all the different press conferences he's had with senators and Congress people about this, and they acknowledged it openly. And then he talked about the last day, the people who paid the most, which is myself. Let's go out in the middle of a reservation at 10 o'clock at night and sit down there and actually make contact. And for those of you who believe in this stuff, you should do it, because I half-ass believed it. I wanted to believe it, but I'm like, well, show me more. So when we sat there and we started meditating and he was doing his Sanskrit stuff, there was a point that everyone went quiet. And all you could hear was like just the wind. And you could look up at the stars. And he said that this period of time for the next, like, let's say 12 minutes, there's no satellites overhead. There's no aircraft coming because they have people that are looking for that on their radars and stuff. And all of a sudden you see 3 lights form up in the sky, right? Boom, boom, boom. All 3 light up, right? And they start doing this, and each of them goes in a different direction. And everyone's like, wow.
And you're sure they don't have a drone operator?
No.
Okay.
Right? So then we sit down, and a few minutes go by, and you look out in the distance about like 30 yards out behind Stephen Greer. There was a red lightning ball that came out of the ground, started just like, and then went back in. Everyone's like, what the fuck was that? Then we all meditated for another 20 minutes, and then we went quiet again, because that's when we knew that there was no jets or satellites overhead. And we heard this person running through the audience. And there was like maybe 50 of us sitting on folding chairs. But you could hear someone's running. And one of them said, oh my God. Like it's a small being running around here. By the time we all opened up our eyes, it was gone, right? Because it has a fear of like humans can do much more harm to them than they can do to us, right? And that's what Stephen Greer was kept on saying. Like the human beings are capable of destroying these people, these beings, but they don't have it in their heart to do anything. They're here to protect us, most of them. So we saw 3 or 4 different kinds of entities show up. There was a light that came in and out, right, of like a line. There's a line in space about 60 yards to the left of us, and a light came in, went out, right? So he was talking about different interdimensional beings that not all of them are going to look like humans or aliens or reptilians or whatever. There's some of them were light. Some of them are look like angels with like little moth-looking things. So on the drive back from this thing ended at 1:00 in the morning, and we're supposed to go back to the reservation hotel and just sleep there. And I told my ex-wife, let's just leave, go back because I miss the kids. And she said, okay, let's go. So she sat next to me, and I'm driving in the middle of nowhere, going back to LA. And about 2 hours into it, it was like maybe like 3:00 in the morning. As I'm driving down the 10 freeway through Joshua Tree, I see on the side of my car, probably about like a mile out in the sky, there was a turquoise thing just glittering, like glistening, doing that. And I'm like, what the heck is that? So I turn around and I see this turquoise thing just like outside my window, a mile out in the sky, just like.
What do you mean? What thing? Was it like a light? Was it like
it looked like
spaceship?
it looked like an egg that has light bulbs on it, and they're all turquoise and just like flashing, right? So as I see that, I go ahead. I'm like, Nona, wake up, wake up, wake up. And in her state of sleeping, because she was deep sleep, she said, they're here for you. And then she was snoring again.
I would have shit my pants at that exact moment.
I did not, right? So I'm like, what the fuck?
I see that as a blessing. Like, wow.
No, I in a blessing-y way, but the fact that she would channel that, like her body would kind of be taken over, would be like.
She said they're here for you.
Brick would come out.
And I'm like, what? And I look at her and she's snoring again, right? Like she wasn't even awake for that.
Sure, she was given a message.
Yeah.
And she spoke it to you.
So I'm driving, and a few minutes later, I still look, and it's still there. I'm like, holy crap, what is this thing? Like, is it? I thought maybe there's a mountain, and this is like on top of it, like it's a observation deck or what. But it was literally just going along with us. So I rolled down the window. It was cold, and I look at it. And I thought first it may be like a reflection of something in the car, just like, but it wasn't. It was just still going with like the lights on it. And I told Nona, they're still here. And she's like, I told you they're here for you, right? And I'm like, what the heck is this? So I pulled over to the first gas station. I had to go buy Twix and like just get my mind off of that thing. So I went to get the Twix. I looked back, and that thing, it just like disappeared.
It didn't like your nutritional choices.
Yeah. Right, it did not. So I come back to the car, and I wake Nona up. I'm like, Nona.
Should have had Tic Tac.
Yeah.
Nona. Like,
or water.
I'm like, Nona, like, what the heck, dude? Like, what happened? Like, she's like, I don't remember what you told me. I'm like, I told you about the spacecraft or whatever, and he kept on saying, they're here for you. And she's like, well, let me sleep on it. Maybe it'll come back to me again. So we got back to Irvine. I'm dropping her off at 5:00 in the morning. She gets out of the car. The first thing she says to me in the haze that she's in, she says, you were projecting, you were thinking at this Stephen Greer thing that I wish I could see more of you guys. You're still on the fence about whether or not you believe what you saw, your eyes saw, because it's like surreal. Like you see a red, lightning strike going into the ground. So he said that's why they're here, because they want to show they're real, and that's why they kept visible to you for a good 7 to 10 minutes, because you kept on questioning it, and they kept on saying, well, here we are. Let's go through your wife and your ex-wife and tell you that this is why we're here for. And then I said, oh, great. And then all of a sudden the look on her face changed, like she just woke up. And she says, oh, we're here? I'm like, yeah, we just had a conversation with you. She's like, I don't remember that. So she was channeling in something from another dimension. And when she went to the house and I told her the next day, I'm like, hey, that was weird. She's like, I don't remember anything. I just remember you dropping me off at home. I said, thank you. I took my suitcase and I went inside. So when I hear things like that, my belief maybe in world religion or government subsides a little bit. I'm like, oh, there's more to life than just what the government tells me or what the Bible tells me. There's more to it. And if more people were in my shoes, they would start questioning, why are we living this life? Why are we believing in this? Why are we believing in that? Why do we think government has all the control over us? They're nobodies. All of a sudden, they would change the world. Like people would get up and just rise against the powers that be.
The machine.
So I think that's why the government tries to hide those things from people, because if I knew, which now I do, that they're real, what's going to happen to the majority of the people who are less intelligent than me? They're going to start saying, wait a minute, wow, we got aliens. Wow, we listen to Biden for. Fuck, let's go loot the banks.
Civil unrest.
Yeah, of course. So that would be my reason why the government is constantly hiding things from people, because they can't handle it.
Because people can't handle it.
Yeah.
The government has always been the mommy and daddy of the children, which would be the citizens. But the thing is, the citizens have all the power, even when they claim they don't. We actually do have a lot of freedoms. Anyone can sit in deep meditation and contact aliens directly. For whatever reason, that doesn't come to them to do.
We should do one, because on Stephen Greer's website, they have all the tools you need to do this.
You don't even need to go to the desert. You don't even need the tools.
But-
That's like
but-
money-making stuff.
What would be
He's
better?
selling you tools.
But it would be better to know to weed out, let's say, a cell phone tower as being, the thing that's causing a rattling noise.
Don't
in the
go
desert.
to do it near a cell phone tower.
That's why he says, like, for example, if you want, he says, you don't have to buy this stuff, but go out in the desert or the mountains so that you don't have the interference. And then you sit there. And so one of the things he brought out was like a lightning detector, right? Where he detects lightning, because some people say, there must be a lightning somewhere. That's why we heard that boom. But when he has that lightning detector and it shows there's no lightning within like 10 miles either direction, and you hear a crackling noise coming from the middle of the desert, 20 yards behind him, that shows that it's not a lightning, it's actually something that's coming in from another dimension.
Why do people need so much proof like that?
Because it's so unreal. Like, to me, I was like weirded out that night. Even though I saw things with my own eye, they still had to tail our car for 10 minutes and go through Nona to tell me, listen, we're real.
And even that, was that
And
enough?
even that, I'm like, well, what if that just was...
Exactly. So I say save yourself the money and the time. We do a seance right here in this office, record all of it, and talk to some fucking aliens.
For the next episode, that would be great.
We should do that.
We don't need anything. I'll bring the crystals, the candles.
Yes.
No Ouija board, obviously.
No.
Because we're not trying to talk to ghosts or disembodied spirits. And just set your intention, and really 3 is all you need to... It's actually more than enough.
It's a triangle right there.
Yeah, that's all you need to contact whoever you want to contact and talk about whatever you want to talk about. And if you choose not to believe after that, that's on you.
Let's do a live on that.
Alive.
Well, not live.
I think recorded in multiple cameras, and they may still not be. You may find your battery mysteriously died, because some things aren't meant to show. Like the extraterrestrials, they even tell me things like, "Don't talk about this. Like this isn't for anybody else." For a reason.
Is that what they're telling you right now?
No, but it's coming to me now as I'm saying this out loud, that sometimes you may receive a message, or you may have an experience that like the whole office lights up with green, and then you go back to the cameras and they just stopped recording before that happened.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. Some things, like I think the biggest part of the ET disclosure is going to be on an individual level. I don't think it's going to be a bunch of aliens coming down to thousands of people. I think the first people who are going to know about it are going to be the ones who discover it alone or with a small group. And then slowly, after thousands of people have discovered it by themselves, will a big disclosure happen. But it would be counterproductive for them to just show up and be like, yo, bitches, we've been here the whole time. Like you said, civil unrest. The government knows that. All the global governments know that. I think even the U.S. government may be told not to share certain things by them.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it. My dad, speaking about things that you don't see and you don't want to believe, even though you have proof. I was driving back with him from the airport a few days ago, and he was talking about this scientist, this Persian man, used to work at JPL.
What's that?
Jet Propulsion Laboratory. It's a NASA division that builds a Mars rover and whatnot. And my dad said, yeah, I interviewed this guy many times. He was such a great mind. He passed away. He had an accident. He had a great mind. In one of his interviews, he said that 100 years ago, we didn't know much. Now we know 98% of everything. I said, okay. He said, yeah, because as scientists, now they can explain everything, almost everything. They can explain how a cell divides or how a baby is born, sorry. They can explain, black holes. They can explain everything except 2% of things. I said, no, he's wrong. God bless his soul. You cannot you can give a story to it. After the fact, you can say, oh, I see the cell divided and it became a baby. But who made the cell that divides? Who put the code in there? And my dad was dumbfounded. He's like, no. Don't. Okay, no, see? It happens in nature. I said, how does it happen in nature? Let's go buy some dirt from Home Depot, some water, put some sun on it, and wait 1,000 years. Do you think all of a sudden a baby is born or a fish? He said, see, when the sun, and this was, the scientist was saying, once the sun and water and dirt are like hanging out for a few million years, something's bound to go wrong. I'm like, Dad, just say that shit. There are things in this world that I have no clue what the fuck they are, where it came from. Science is just an explanation of things you see.
Yeah, it's observations.
It is not the reason. Yes, you say, yeah, if you, mix, bleach with hydrogen peroxide, it has an explosion. Yes, okay, you can write a little article why this happens, but you cannot define life. Where did it come from? Who's watching us? What other dimensions are? You don't see it. How can the scientists define something they can't see?
Yeah, he probably knew 2% of things, and 98% was unknown.
So people like my father, the general masses, they will see things that they don't see with their own eyes, therefore it doesn't exist. And if they are shown proof, it's always, my dad always says, Hollywood CGI. I'm like, I saw things with my own eyes. How is that CGI? Oh, you're probably sleepy, and you see, when you're sleepy, you see shit. I'm like, okay, not having that conversation.
Yeah, it's not floaters. It's not floaters.
I feel like your father may be somebody with a who has seen things that he cannot explain, and as a protective mechanism has developed these explanations. You know what I mean?
He said very clearly, I said, it was my grandfather's birthday a few days ago, and the man has been dead for 30 years now. 35 years. I told my dad as a feel-good story, hey, remember I told you like 20 years ago that Grandpa called my name? His ghost did, and I woke up, and at the same time he called my brother's name, and we both woke up looking at each other like, whoa, that was Grandpa talking to both of us at the same time. My dad's like, you know what? You know what the scientist, JPL scientist said, which I think is very true? You are like a candle. The second the flame is out, you're done. There's nothing else left. I'm like, Dad, once you open your eyes and your other senses, you will see things that will start making sense. There's no reason for us to be on this planet just to live here like a little candle, and then once our flame is dead, we're gone. There's a bigger reason.
Yeah, he always says, once I see it, I'll believe it. And keep on saying, you got to believe it to see it. And to him, that's like
that doesn't make sense.
Wait a minute.
And that's why you're joking about NBC, because he said, NBC says there are aliens. If NBC says there are ghosts and the scientists have discovered that there are ghosts, I will believe it.
Even then, people won't believe it.
Yeah.
If they're not ready.
Because it could be fake news.
Exactly.
Fake news.
That heavy skepticism always indicates to me whether it's heavily pro or heavily anti. I feel like they're both the same as far as an attachment to this truth for whatever reason. He's very attached to the fact that it's a very material world. There's got to be a reason for that. I bet he has stories he's never told you that he can't explain and doesn't want to talk about.
Maybe that's his, like you said, his mechanism of protecting himself from going nuts.
Well, one time he did
Correct. Exactly.
One time he did say, I was sleeping and I came out of my body and I started floating through the roof, and I looked up and I had a choice to either go or disattach from my body. I'm like, and that's not proof enough that like you have a soul in there? He's like, no.
People write that stuff off, and that's okay if that's what they need to do to survive.
Yeah.
Look, 2 weeks ago, we had the biggest UFO disclosure news in human history, and nobody gave it any attention. Like, if somebody told me, "Oh, the reason for you existing is this," this is like one of the biggest things in the world.
Wait a minute, I didn't hear it because I don't watch the news.
It was everywhere. You don't even have to watch the news. I don't watch the news, and it was all over social media.
This guy that is a whistleblower says, you know what? There's a department in the government that nobody knows about. It's called recovery of alien vehicles and
parts.
people.
Really?
Yes. And he said, you know what? We have hundreds of recovered alien ships. We have hundreds of dead bodies and some alive. And they're all keeping them. And
This was on the news?
yes. But nobody pays attention to this shit because everybody's on Instagram sharing their food pictures.
People also don't know what to do
Food.
with this information. They do not know what to do with it. Like, how does it apply to the everyman? People don't. They're like, what do I stand to gain or lose from this?
I think a lot of people have denial because they're going to be scared.
Also because of religion.
Of religion.
America is a hugely Christian evangelical country, and a lot of people, what is it, like 80% of Americans have been Christian or were Christian at one point. Somebody fact check. What's the guy's name? Simon?
Steve.
Ray? Steve.
Steve,
Fact check that for us. I have my phone. I can look at that. But I know it's some massive.
Yeah, we're paying you overtime, bro.
At least to be 2012.
All right.
But-
Don't disrespect Steve with looking at your phone.
Long story short, LSS. Religion, I think, is also another contributing factor too, and the American ethos about conquering other countries and being the world's foremost superpower. For patriots and religious folk, there isn't a whole lot of room for aliens to exist no matter who tells them. Fox News, if they suddenly broadcast this, I think they have a strong Christian following. I feel like people would just turn on Fox News, if that makes sense. I don't think it's so deeply ingrained. There isn't much, like, where do you fit in the alien?
I think once one of the hosts or a couple of hosts of Fox News started questioning Donald Trump's actions, they lost a lot of viewers.
Yes, they did.
Because they're so attached to that outcome of this is our reality. And if someone pushes it to a certain degree outside of what they're comfortable with, they're going to call them out on their bullshit or whatever.
Well, first of all, mainstream media did not cover this story. The few channels that did, they put it at the last item as here's a goofball news of the day. This idiot claims to see the green Martian man, and they diminish it by making a joke and mockery out of it, so that whoever's even listening, they're like, okay, it's fake.
Because the media is owned by the powers that be.
And because the media makes money through confirmation bias. People watch the news largely, and I'm going to use Fox as an example, not necessarily to learn new information, but to tap into a community that they want to be a part of.
Regurgitate the same shit.
Yeah, and to be reassured, like, don't worry, like, your worldview is still the same.
Yeah.
Everything's just as you left it, and we'll confirm that for you so that you can sleep tonight. Some people, I think, even are addicted to the bad news.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, the world's still shitty. Good. I feel safe. Like you said in our last podcast, for those who haven't listened yet, rewind and go listen. You said that it's the familiar. People like the familiar.
Yeah.
So I think when you introduce a variable like aliens, think of the changes in your brain that you have to go through to now accommodate this new information and assimilate this new information, especially if you're over the age of like 18. Biologically speaking, the brain struggles to do that. It's difficult to assimilate new information. So what makes us think that anybody's going to want to?
Yeah.
You're right. We have an identity by this age, and there's no way we're going to say, dissect it, let's put this new information in and change the way we think and behave. So boys and girls, let's not forget, next week, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do that
Friday.
thing that you want to
I'm
do.
doing it,
We'll bring
bro.
crystals, candles.
I'm doing it.
We'll set up three cameras.
What I would do to the audience, if you guys are listening.
You would do to them? What are you going to do?
What I
to them?
suggest, what I would suggest is to look up Stephen Greer and watch a couple of his documentaries. They're movies. And I think one's called The Disclosure Project and the other one, I don't remember, but go watch them.
SETI. Well, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What was that?
CE5?
Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway, go watch him, Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer. Watch his videos because that's going to be a mind-bending, weird-ass shit that will prepare you for what we're supposed to do.
I'm
Yeah.
already getting the download of how we're going to do it.
Okay, nice.
Very exciting.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it's gonna happen right here.
I think over there.
Okay.
I'd like us to be on the floor.
Sure.
That's what I've already seen the whole image, including the symbol that we're all going to have to entrain with.
Okay.
And I suggest we all eat the same foods, think the same thoughts, and kind
And
of
no
start.
coffee.
Actually, we can have coffee.
Oh.
We'll talk about what caffeine does to psychic phenomenon next week's podcast. But
Perfect.
it actually can accelerate and enhance and intensify the
Interesting.
experience. So it'll be great.
Awesome.
Tune
Looking
in.
forward to it.
Yeah. Triple Shot Mindset.